Hello, everyone. Welcome to another lecture on reasoning ability and problem solving. In today's lecture, we will start a new topic called problem solving and analysis. In this lecture, we will understand all the types of questions that can come from your problem solving and analysis in your competitive exams. So, what do you mean by problem solving and analysis? Problem solving and analysis means that you analyze patterns and logic to find a solution to the problem. So, if you look at the definition, problem solving analysis is an approach, it is a systematic approach to understand and resolve challenges or issues. Challenges or issues means your questions. So, it involves breaking down complex problems, gathering relevant information, and analyzing, as I said, to identify patterns or logics and in order to derive solutions. Okay? In problem solving and analysis, you can get four types of questions. There are type 1 logical reasoning, type 2 mathematical and quantitative reasoning. Then we have type 3 analytical puzzles and type 4 non-verbal reasoning. Each type has certain subcategories. For example, if you look at logical reasoning, logical reasoning has five subcategories. That is, first is statement, assumption, conclusion, inference. Then syllogisms. Then analogies. The fourth is coding decoding, and fifth is blood relations. Analogies and coding and decoding we have already done in detail. So this is just a quick recap for you. Then mathematical and quantitative reasoning, number series and sequence, and mathematical operations. Again, number series is also something that we have already discussed. Then we get analytical puzzles, that is seating arrangements and logical grids. And type 4 is non-verbal reasoning, which is series completion and image rotation. Seating arrangements can be of four types that you can get. The first type is circular seating arrangement. Then you can get a square or a rectangle or a triangle seating arrangement. Okay. Then you can get a linear seating arrangement. Linear seating arrangement means that everybody is sitting in a straight line. And then lastly, you can get parallel rows. So four types of seating arrangement problems are there. In today's class, we will discuss only two types, that is type 1 logical reasoning and type 2 mathematical and quantitative reasoning in detail. So you can get an idea of all these topics. Now, starting from topic number 1, type 1 logical reasoning, and topic number 1, that is statement, assumption, conclusion, and inference. So in these type of questions, you get a statement. Then you can get three things. You can either get assumption, you can either get conclusion, or you can get inference. And you have to tell which of the assumption, conclusion, or inference is true. Okay. Now, in order to understand this question, we have to first identify the difference between assumption, conclusion, and inference. So, what do you actually mean by assumption, conclusion, and inference? So, for this, let us take an example. So, you can say that if this is a statement I'm writing, okay? So, I'm giving you an example statement. Once you understand this example, then we will solve this question. Okay. So statement, if I give my dog medicine X, this is the name of the medicine. Medicine X, he starts behaving erratically. Or you can write abnormally. So this is a statement I'm giving to you. That if I give my dog medicine X, he starts behaving abnormally. This is a statement. Now, if I look at this statement, I have to find what is the assumption, what is the conclusion, and what is the inference. From this statement, I can gather a assumption. What assumption? My assumption is that if I do not give medicine X to my dog, he behaves normally. right? I can say that if I do not give medicine X to my dog, he behaves normally. So the assumption is that if no medicine is given to a dog, he is behaving normally. Because the statement says that only after giving medicine X, the dog starts behaving abnormally. So this is a assumption that if no medicine is given to a dog, he behaves normally. What can I conclude from this statement? Conclusion. If I look at the statement, I can conclude that giving medicine X to a dog will affect his behavior, right? I can conclude that giving medicine X to a dog changes his to this dog actually, because we are talking about a particular dog over here, okay? So we can conclude that giving medicine X to this dog changes his behavior. We cannot say this about each and every dog, but only the dog that is mentioned in the statement. So this is the conclusion, that giving medicine X to this dog changes his behavior, right? Now what we can infer from this statement? I can infer that medicine X is dangerous for this dog. So this can be my inference, that medicine X is dangerous for this dog. So this is assumption, this is conclusion, and this is inference. So this is the difference between assumption, conclusion, and inference. When I talk about assumption, assumption means that it is already kept in mind while forming the question. While forming the statement, if I give my dog medicine X, he starts abnormally. We have assumed, it is implicit in the statement, that if I do not give this medicine, the behavior of my dog is normal, right? Looking at this statement, we can derive these two, conclusion and inference are derived. Okay? Conclusion means that I have concluded that giving medicine X to this dog changes his behavior, and I can infer from the statement that medicine X is dangerous for this dog. Now, inference is never mentioned directly in the statement. We have to infer it, we have to reduce it. Okay? So this is the difference between assumption, conclusion, and inference. Now let us look at this question. So in this question, we are given a statement and we are given two assumptions, and we have to tell which of the following two assumptions are true. Okay, which of the following assumptions logically follow. So the statement given to us is, do not step out of the door of the train, a warning in a train compartment. So a train compartment has a warning written on it that do not step out of the door of the train. Now, two assumptions: stepping out of the train is dangerous, and second, children do not pay any heed to such warning. Now, if you look at assumption 1, that stepping out of the train is dangerous, this is a true assumption. Because if this was true, only then we will get a warning. Because if stepping out of the train is not dangerous, why would there be a warning at all? If there is a warning on the train compartment, that means it is dangerous. That is the only reason why there is a warning. So this assumption is true. Assumption number 2, children do not pay any heed to such warnings. Now this assumption is false. Why? Because nothing of this is irrelevant, basically. This is irrelevant. We cannot judge this based on this statement. So assumptions are always analyzed based on the statement. We assume that we do not know any more information than the statement. Statement is the only information that is given to us, and based on only this information, we judge the assumptions. So this assumption will be false. So if we look at the option, only one assumption is implicit, only assumption 2 is implicit. Implicit means clear, there in the question, either one or neither one or two. So only one is implicit. So our answer will be option number 1, that if only assumption 1 is implicit. So this was what you mean by statement, assumption, conclusion, and inference. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is syllogisms. Okay, so for understanding syllogisms, first we have to understand the concept of a Venn diagram. Venn diagram you basically study in your school, but let us revise what do you mean by Venn diagram. So Venn diagram, okay, so Venn diagram is basically a figure used to represent data. This is what you mean by a Venn diagram. So Venn diagram basically means a figure that is used to represent data. For example, this data, let's say, is my school, right? This square or this rectangle represents my school. Now, in this school, there will be some students who will like dancing. There will be some students who will like singing. There will be some students who will like acting and so on, right? So out of the school, I can say this section likes dancing, this section likes singing, and this section like acting, so on and so forth. So this is what do you mean by Venn diagram. Venn diagram are small picture representations that we use to represent data. Now when we talk about Venn diagram, okay, when we talk about Venn diagram, there are certain things, there are four possibilities basically. Let us understand this with an example. So let's say the first possibility is that all students in a school like dancing. Okay. So the first possibility is all students like dancing. So if this is my students, this will be my dancing. This is how we will represent this data. How? Because see, there will be some people who dance but are not students, right? There could be artists who dance, there could be professionals who dance, there could be teachers who dance, you know. So dancing is a bigger area compared to a student. So there will be some students who would like, all students who like dancing. So students will be a subset of dancing. Clear? If I have to write, or let us understand this with a better example using A and B. All A are B. So if this is my A, this will be my B. Either this, or we can write it like this, that A equals to B. If all A are B, this can also be a representation, but this is a more true representation. This is possibility, and this is definitely true. Okay, so all A are B basically means that A is a subset of B. This is A and all A are B. So this is definitely true. So whenever we look at syllogisms, we look at definitely true. Okay. Now, the second possibility or the second thing that can happen is I can write that some A are B. I can write like this. So if this is my A, this will be my B. Because some people, some A will definitely be a part of B. So some A or B can be written like this. This is definitely true. I can also write it like this. Let's say this is my A and this is my B. Some A, some part of A is B. This. I can also write it like this, but this is a possibility. This is a possibility. Why? Because this means that all B are A. Correct? But this is not mentioned. What is mentioned? Some A or B is only mentioned. So all B are A is not mentioned. So this can be a possibility, but this is not definitely true. So while solving syllogisms, we only look at definitely true options. So this can be a representation, but for syllogism purposes, we will only consider this representation because this is definitely true. So some A are B. Clear? Now, the next is, now these are called all A are B and some A are B. These are called positive statements or positive statements. Then there are two statements which are called negative statements. Now, what do you mean by negative statement? If I say that no or none A are B, if I say like this, that none A are B, that means A and B will not overlap. A is different and B is different. No A and B are the same. So this will be represented with a cross. You can either represent it like this or you can either represent it like this to remember that A and B will not overlap. So this is a negative statement. Then we can say that some A are not B. So what will be the representation of some A are not B? So if I say that some A are not B, that means A and B is like this, but there will be certain part in A, this part, that is not B. Okay, so this is a negative relationship. When we said that certain some A are B, when I told you this, that some A are B, we highlighted this part because this was definitely true. Okay, some A or B, that means there will be certain part that is A and B both. But when I talk about some A are not B, that means there will be certain part in A which will not overlap, that will not overlap with B, this part. So this portion is definitely true. So this is the negative relationship between A and B. So these two are positive relationships and these two are negative relationships. Correct? This is the entire concept of syllogisms. You will understand this better when we will do questions. So during exercises and previous year questions, you'll get a clear idea. Okay, but now let us see. So these are the only four concepts. Now certain words can change. We can, some A or B can also be written as that a few A are B. Something like this. So words can change. Okay, so if you see something like this written in the exam that a few A or B, it means the same as some A or B. Now, let us look at this question. In this question, two statements are given to us. Some boys are birds, all birds are animals. So these are the elements. We have three elements: boys, birds, and animals. These are the only three elements. Whenever you solve questions on syllogisms, we do not follow the logical interpretation. Plus, we assume that the statement is the universal truth. Now, what do you mean by this? Firstly, if you look at this statement, some boys are birds, is this possible in real life? If I interpret this logically, can boys be birds? No, these are human beings and these are animals. They cannot. This is not true logically. But in syllogisms, first rule number 1. So I can write it like this. Rule 1. We do not follow the logical interpretation. We do not treat this as logically true. There can be logical flaws, like in this question. Rule number 2. Rule number 2 means this, whatever is written in the statement is considered the universal truth. So we will consider this to be true whether it follows logically in real life or not. So these are the two rules that you should remember while solving questions for syllogisms. Okay? Now let us come to this question that some boys are birds and all birds are animals. So as I said, if I have to write some boys are birds into Venn diagram, how will I write? Let's say this represent boys, correct? And this represent birds. So some boys are birds will be represented by this section. Correct? Moving on to the next statement. All birds are animals. So again, let's say this is A and B. All A is B. All birds are animals. That means that this will be my animal, because all birds are part of animal. This is given in option number 2. All A are B. Correct? This is how we represent. This is definitive truth. Now, moving on, we two conclusions are given to us and we have to identify which of the conclusions are true. Some boys are animals. So if you look at this portion, let me highlight it with the different pen. Okay, if you look at this, some boys are animals. If you look at this portion, there is overlapping between boys and animals. Correct? So some boys are animals will be true. Okay, now conclusion 2. Some animals are boys. So some animals, if you look at here, they are also a part of boys. There is overlapping if you look at this area. Correct? So this is also true. So our answer will be, if you look at the options, in option we have only conclusion 2 follows, only conclusion 1 follows, both conclusion follow and neither. So both the conclusion follow. So option number 3 will be the correct answer. This is the diagram that we draw. Venn diagram. Okay. So this was the concept of syllogisms that came in type 1 part 2 syllogisms. Now, analogies we have already discussed. Analogies basically means that two elements are given to us and we have to use the same logic on pair number 2 to identify the problem. So analogies we have already discussed in detail. Over here, sun is to star and earth is to what? We have to find out. So the relationship between sun and star is that sun is a type of star. So we have to follow the same logic for the second one. So earth we have to find is a type of what? So earth is a type of planet. So option number 1, planet, will be the correct answer. So there's a complete chapter on analogies that we have discussed. Coding decoded, again we have discussed in detail. In coding and decoding we used 4 concepts. The first was forward rank. The second was backward rank. The third was opposite letters. And the fourth was loop. So we discussed all these four logics in detail when we discussed coding and decoding. So we'll use the same logic. If you remember, let me give them forward rank, or just by the looks of it, we can say it is given to us that river is coded as this and we have to find the code for apple. So if I write river like this and if I like my code like this, I can see RS plus 1, I to J is plus 1, VW plus 1, EF plus 1, RS again plus 1. So we are moving one position ahead. So similarly, we'll do the same thing for Apple. In Apple, if I move plus 1, I'll get B. After P, I'll get Q. After L, I'll get F. And after E, I'll get F. After L, I'll get M. So my code will be BQQMF, which is given in option number 4. So option number 4 will be the correct answer. So coding, decoding we have already discussed. Now let us come to a new topic, that is blood relations. So in blood relations we deal with 2 things. Number 1 is the actual blood relations. That is, you are my father or my mother or my brother, sister, grandfather. These are all blood relations. Then we talk about in-laws. In-laws means the mother of my spouse or the father of my spouse. That is in-laws. Correct? So in blood relations, we deal with 2 types of relations. Now, if I draw a simple chart, okay, I'm drawing a simple chart. This is the basic chart. We can expand on it to understand the concept of blood relations. Now, let us say I am the center point in this chart. This is me. Correct? Then I'll have the generation below will be called my children. The generation above me will have my mother and my father. The generation above this will have my grandfather or my grandmother. Correct? This is how it works. The generation of my mother and father will also have my uncles and my aunts. Correct? The siblings of my mother and father. Then I will have siblings, that is one relation in my generation, or I can have my spouse. Correct? Two relations. Now, my spouse will also have their parents, mother and father. So, these will be my in laws, my mother in law, or my father in law. Let's say my siblings have children. My siblings' children will be my nephews or my nieces. Correct? So, this is overall a small idea for blood relations. This is how you draw blood relation charts. Now, certain things that you should remember while solving questions on blood relations. The first thing is, do not assume the gender. You have to solve the question. Do not assume gender ever. Meena can be a male in your question. Devi can be a male. Devanshu can be a female. So, until and unless you solve the entire question, you do not assume gender. This is very important while solving questions for blood relations. Always draw a chart like the one I drew. I'll show you how. Then, the third thing to remember is representation. So, how to represent male and females in order to avoid confusion? What you can do is you can write plus or minus. Okay, one thing. You can, let's say, draw a square for male and a circle for a female. Or what I do is I write a small f and a small m and a small f to represent males and females while solving the question. So either of the three methods you can use, whatever is your preference. So these three things you have to remember. Then, how to represent siblings and spouse to avoid confusion in the same generation, right? So siblings, let's say you are representing like this. I represent my siblings like this. Sometimes people and spouses, you are drawing a straight line. Sometimes what people do is sometimes they draw a straight line for siblings, and for spouses they draw a line, double line like this. So whatever is your comfort, follow it that way. Just remember whatever logic you are using. Okay. So concept of blood relations clear. Now let us look at the question. Amit is the son of Meena. So let's say Amit is over here. He is the, or he or she, we don't, he is the son because son is given, right? So he will be a male of Meena. Meena's gender, we don't know. Meena's father-in-law is Rohit. So Meena will have a husband, right? Meena's husband or wife, we don't know the gender. So Meena's husband or wife, they will have a father called Rohit. Rohit will be the, this is male because we know that he is the father-in-law of Meena. We have to find how Rohit is related to Amit. So if you look at this chart, it could be either husband or wife. We don't know, right? Husband or wife. Meena's husband or wife. In whatever case, the father of your parents, this is Amit's parent, right? It could be male or female, mother or father, right? Amit's parent's parent will be your grandfather. So Rohit will be Amit's grandfather. Clear? How did we solve this question? So the first statement given to us was Amit is the son of Meena. So Amit being the son of Meena, that means Meena can be either the mother or the father. We don't know. Then Meena's father-in-law. So Meena's spouse, father, is Rohit. This is given to us. We have to find the relationship between Rohit and Amit. So Rohit is the grandfather of Amit. So the option number 1, grandfather, will be your correct answer. Clear? So this was in logical reasoning type 1. Then type 2. Type 2 mathematical and quantitative reasoning. Under this, the first is number series and sequence. We have already discussed this. In number series and sequence, we are given a series and we have to find the missing element. This missing element can be in any position. In this series, it is the last one that is missing, but it can be in any position. Now, we have to look at the pattern that is being followed. So over here, I can say there's a plus 3. Now 5 to 10, if I move, I can see there is a plus 5. Similarly, 10 to 17 is a plus 7. So clearly what I'm doing, I am adding consecutive odd numbers. This is the pattern, correct? So after plus 3, plus 5, plus 7, the next will be plus 9. And if I add 9 and 17, I'll get 26. So my answer will be option number 3, 26. Very easy. This is how you solve number series and sequence. Now, 2.2 mathematical operations. In mathematical operations, what you do is, this is an equation that is given to us. Now, certain codes have been given to us. We are told that x into y represents that x is added to y. So 10 into 4 basically represents 10 plus 4. Correct? Now, the second thing, x divided by represent x is subtracted from y. So this element divided by this element basically means 2 plus 3 minus 10 into 4. So this is how you solve questions for mathematical operations. Now 10 into 4 is represented as 10 plus 4. Correct? So this will be my final equation. Now I have to solve this. So this will be 5, this will be 14. So 5 minus 14 will give me minus 9. So answer will be option number 4, none of these. So you understand what we did in mathematical operations? Basically, we were given a equation. This is the equation that we were given. Okay, this is the equation. Now we were given that x into y means that x is added to y. So instead of into sign, we will put the addition sign. Then it was given to this. Let's say this is the element x. This is element x and this is element y. Then it was given to us that x divided by y means x is subtracted from y. That means y minus x. So if I write y minus x, I will write 2 plus 3 minus 10 plus 4, correct? So this will be 5, this will be 14 and answer will be minus 9, which is none of these. Okay, so here is the solution. So this concludes today's lecture. In today's lecture, we discussed 2 types and the remaining 2 types we will discuss in the next lecture. So, thank you.